Hello, my Teaserking family. Sorry about that. How's everybody today? First day of football. Very good. Can't wait. We got Notre Dame kicking it off. We'll go through all the lines. So we got what? Navy, Notre Dame, UMass, New Mexico State, Ohio, San Diego State, Hawaii, Vanderbilt, San Jose State, USC, and Florida International and La Tech. So a small contingent, but we could find some picks. So that's all that matters. That's what they're doing it for, more betting. And then they got Notre Dame at 2 and USC tonight. So let's get into it. So let's look at the lines first. As you can see yesterday, Cam Rising is playing for Utah on the 31st. So next Thursday, he's been cleared to start. So I just have a strong feeling that shows you how much they want it. If it was a nothing game, they're playing Florida, it's not in conference, we don't care, then he doesn't play. But it's a red out, it's revenge, and Florida really doesn't have anybody who would scare you. Graham Mertz, how good can he be? Played at Wisconsin. Now, Russell Wilson played there, but when he played there, he scored 45 points a game. Graham Mertz had, 10? Anyway, so Florida's got a lot of injuries too, which we'll get into. So let's first look at the line. And this is how I catch Cam Rising yesterday because I looked at the line. Now I go to scoresandodds.com. For the line. All right. So we got Notre Dame 20.5, 48.5. So the over-under, the total went down from 50 to 48.5. And Notre Dame stayed at 20.5. And again, Hartman's now on Notre Dame. Big difference. They play Navy every year, so it's not like they don't know how to practice against them or beat them. So that's game one at 2:30. It is now 11:30, roughly. So we got 3 hours of before the game on NBC. UTEP -1.5 against Jacksonville State. We have no information on them. That was Primetime's old team. Who gives a fuck? He's not there. He's on Colorado. Who gives a fuck? He's on Colorado. I mean, he was a good cornerback. He was a bad baseball player. And he was fast. Does he know how to coach? I have no idea. But if they want to make a circus out of it, we'll take advantage. Not touching the game. We don't know anything about it. And, I don't want you guys betting on games that we don't know anything about. There's too many games to bet on that we can oh, geez, let's bet Jacksonville State. Well, why? You can't name a player on it. They all went to Colorado. So unless UTEP was really strong, and they're actually favorites, UTEP's -1.5 and 54.5 up from 53.5. New Mexico State 745.5 down from 9 and up from 44.5. I love New Mexico State's quarterback Pavia. Very, very good. Gets a lot of points and yards. He's more like Jefferson on Arkansas. He's a good runner and a good passer. Unlike Lamar, who can only run, he can actually pass too. So UMass is the Z team, and we'll go through that in a minute. San Diego State 2.5, 48.5, down from I think 49. I don't know. San Diego State 2.5 hasn't moved. Vanderbilt 17.5, 56.5, hasn't really moved. That's where it's been. We'll find out about Hawaii today. I mean, if Hawaii can put up a 25-30, then we'll see they got the offense going. If they get shut out, then it's another long year for Hawaii. But it's a long flight. They got to fly from Hawaii to Tennessee. Next week, they get Stanford at home. Now, Stanford's only got to fly from the West Coast, but still, it's a 4 or 7 hour flight to Hawaii. And Hawaii's much better at home because they don't have to travel. USC 30.5, 66.5 to San Jose State. From the open, it was 27.5. Although I've had it at 30.5, 66 the whole time. So that really number hasn't moved. LTAC, Florida International, LTAC 12.5, 57.5, up from 10.5. Money going on LTAC. But the over-under went from 59 to 57.5. And then we'll go to 831. UCF 36.5, 59.5, hasn't moved. NC State 14.5, 47.5. That was 16.5, went down. Minnesota 7.5, 44.5, went down from 46. Utah 7, 46.5. That number started at 9, went all the way down to 4.5. They thought Rising wasn't playing, and that's your key. When you see the line move like that, I didn't know Rising was questionable first, so I like it at 9, and then it goes down to 7. Okay, is Rising playing? Yeah, it seems okay. Then he goes down to 4.5. Now he's game time decision, and I think it's a little bit too much. But the line movements make me go, "What the hell's going on?" Right? That's your information that the sharps use, and we're the sharps. Don't forget that. I'm the sharpest sharp there is. So when it goes down, you're wondering why. Why would anybody bet Florida in this game? And I'm still curious because there's no reason. So now it goes back from 4.5 to 7 because now he's listed as the starter. And Kyle Whittingham, the coach, would not do that unless he was very comfortable in it. And so Utah's back to 7. It could go to 9. I mean, it's 8:31, and it's 8:20. So it's next Thursday, and this could easily on Wednesday and Thursday go back to 9 because it's a red out, and Utah's going to kill them. So keep that in mind. Miami of Florida, 17.5 over Miami of Ohio, 46.5. That number really hasn't moved. Van Dyke has a new offensive coordinator running the air raid. I look for him to have a huge year. This will get ugly by the third quarter. Michigan State 14.5, 49.5, hasn't really moved. Louisville 8.5, 49.5, hasn't really moved. And then Stanford, I don't know why there's a line on this because we don't know what Hawaii is going to do. And then the free pick, Army and Texas, let's go to those. Army changed time, so all of a sudden it changes. I hate that because then it changes where it is on the spread. Texas 35.5, 59.5, hasn't really moved. And Army is Army's 9.5, 48.5. And that moved from 7.5. I'm not surprised that it moved. You got to be nuts to bet Lou Monroe in this situation because you can't practice Army. As I said, my biggest poker tip is sitting next to Jim Harbaugh's roommate. And he basically was like, played at Michigan. He says, you can't prepare for Army and Navy because you cannot practice their plays at the speed that they run them, because your quarterback and it's a timing offense, the veer, the wishbone, whatever they run, and you can't just go. Air Force is even worse because Air Force can throw the ball pretty well. And that's what Army's trying to do now, is use Air Force's offense. They brought in a new offensive coordinator who's very good. All his Division I and II teams average like 50 points a game, a good throwing offense. So I look for Army, to really pound Lou Monroe. And as Nick saying, Lou Monroe had all summer to get ready for it. Yeah, Lou Monroe is lucky enough just if they can run their own offense. So those are the spreads. So as we see Rising to be playing, which we're very excited, that's huge. That's what you like. That's how you make money. You wait, and you got to check the injuries. But then you read it's a red out, and Utah wants revenge, and Florida lost all their player. Well, they lost Richardson, who sucked anyway. And then Mertz comes from Wisconsin. I mean, what the hell is that? If he was any good, why did he leave? And they're running an air raid offense at Wisconsin. You'd think he'd have stayed and said, "Oh, well, okay, this fits me perfectly." And then, and Utah's got a Georgia-type defense. Look out for them. They'll handle USC and UCLA this year. Look for them to get to the playoffs. They're that strong, and it's because of their defense and Rising. And those are the two critical factors we must look at. How strong is your defense, and how's your quarterback? I mean, that's why I didn't understand Stenson Benson going in the third or fourth round of the Rams, when clearly Indy and Houston needed a quarterback like Stenson Bennett, and why Baltimore didn't take him. He'd have been a perfect pick for Baltimore instead of signing Lamar. Yeah, you've done a lot with Lamar. Oh, wait, the last 3 years he's played like 6 games and he's been injured because he runs and that's it. He can't hit the broadside of a barn. But what the hell? He's a running quarterback. You know how much running quarterbacks win, don't you? Oh yeah, Mahomes really doesn't run, does he? Or Burrow, very little. And Burrow won't be running with the pulled calf, but he should be ready to go. We'll check that, but we got 2 weeks to check that. So the pros start in 2 weeks. They got the preseason crap. I don't even know what it is. These inter squad scrimmages. What a joke. There's no hitting. There's no contact. It's bullshit. It's not getting you. You're going to run like a 5-mile race without running at all? Well, we'll just walk around. How about that? Why don't we walk 2 miles and we'll say we're ready for the 5-mile race? That's about what the Lions and the rest of these teams that don't play their starters in the preseason, they're out of their fucking minds. They're already 2 games behind, because the first game they're going to get killed because they cannot go 60 minutes. They're not in shape for it. You can't run in shape. You can only play in shape. The whole difference between playing and just running a lap. Even Jerry Rice, who ran the hill, he'd probably be the exception, but I don't see anybody on the Lions running a hill. They're not that good. So anyway, with that said, let's go a little bit more in depth. So Notre Dame Navy, I got Notre Dame as an A team from last year, a stronger A team with Hartman. Hartman, excellent quarterback from Wake Forest, going to light it up for Notre Dame. They will have a good defense. Look for them to make the playoff, but they got to get by Ohio State and USC. I think they can get by both of them, because neither of them really have a defense. Unless Ohio State shows up with the defense, they are not going to be able to handle Hartman. And stacking them 25 times, they couldn't handle it. It's just defense beats offense. Very rarely you got them, but they still have their defense. I want to call him Neil Smith, but I don't know what the hell the guy's name is, the defensive tackle. But that's the point. The defense will beat the offense, and that's why we look for defense. So Notre Dame, so we look at this game, we got Navy with a fairly good defense, but not a real strong offense. And now with Hartman, so again, I'm using last year's stats because I don't have anything this year. And that's just the base and a guide. And then I'll tweak it as we start seeing the transfers. You can't, I mean, half these guys, I look on the injury list, I don't know. And I mean, unless it's like, a big star, Jefferson at Arkansas, Van Dyke. If it's no, okay. But if it's Joe Smith, I have no idea who they are. I don't care about it. I can just see like certain teams have running back issues. I think Oregon and Oregon State, 2 wide receivers are questionable. But we don't care. They don't play anybody week 1, and that's still next week, and that's the injury list now. But when I look at this, a couple of tight ends are injured on Notre Dame, but I don't know if they're any good or not. Their starting tight end, let's see. The starting tight end is Michael Evans, and I don't believe he was on the injured list. So that's really what you care about is the starter out, because Hartman is going to develop with the tight end and the wide receivers. So Hartman's not good if everybody's injured, but right now he's fine. So Notre Dame should put up a lot of points on Navy. Navy, I don't know. They did change their coach to Newberry from the other guy, which I was kind of surprised. New quarterback, but in Navy's scheme, it doesn't matter. He's just running the option anyway. But Notre Dame sees him every year. Shouldn't be a big deal. UMass, New Mexico State. UMass was a Z team last year, which means they score about 15 points and they give up 35. Perfect team. New Mexico State was a B team last year. They scored about 25, 26, and they gave up 24, 25. So they've found a quarterback, Pavia. They were scoring a lot at the end of last year. He's their quarterback this year, so that shouldn't be a problem. UMass, is everybody running to UMass and all of a sudden going to be not a Z team? I doubt it. I don't think. And then their defense, I don't think they're going to all of a sudden get better defensively. So I see Pavia being able to score, and I don't see UMass, who's a Z team, being able to score no matter, New Mexico State's defense is okay. They got their coach is Jerry Kills at Minnesota. So all of a sudden, they're not an 0-13 team anymore. They were like 6-5 or something. And they were scoring on some weaker teams, but they still put up a 30 and a 40 on weaker teams. And nobody's weaker than UMass. So I would think New Mexico State would put up a lot of points, and we'll see what UMass is all about. Ohio, San Diego State. Ohio's an over team. They score a lot. Their defense is San Diego State's always an under team. They don't score. They run the ball and play defense. And in this situation, 2.5, 48.5. It's hard to say. You would think defense beats offense. You would think San Diego State wins the game, but Ohio is very good quarterback in Rourke. They're a good MAC team. San Diego State's not great. They don't score a lot. So I think Ohio will find a way to put up some points. So we'll see what happens. I think this will be a very close game, in my opinion. Hawaii, Vanderbilt. Hawaii is a Z team like UMass, so no offense, no defense, just what we're looking for. But Vandy's a W team. They don't score a lot, but they got no defense either. But this is an SEC team going against Hawaii. Now, we know Hawaii had a new coach who was a former quarterback, and they had a new quarterback last year, so they're getting used to the system. So this year they should be a lot better. They maybe recruited some receivers who would be smart to go to Hawaii if you're any good. I mean, besides the weather, you've got that. Vanderbilt, are they still a W? Maybe they got better. We don't know. That's a we don't know. I think Vandy beats them, but we'll keep an eye on Hawaii to see, did they score 25, 30 points? Are they getting better offensively? That's what we want to see. And that's what we don't know. We assume that because it's now year 2 of the coach quarterback. And it was a good, I think it's Timmy Chang. He was a good quarterback at Hawaii, and his system worked back then. And, but it's at Vandy, and it's a long flight, so I'm sure they're going to be tired. So I think Vandy wins it pretty comfortably, but we're watching Hawaii for the next week game against Stanford. San Jose State, USC. San Jose State last year was a B team. They scored a lot and had a fairly good defense. USC is just an over team. They'll score. They're just like the Oklahoma teams when he coached there. They'll score 50 and they'll give up 50. No defense at all. This is the problem with the coach. This is why he'll never win a championship. You cannot win a championship without a defense, period. End of story. So they're going to score a lot, but when they play Utah, they ain't going to beat Utah. Not with that defense. As long as Rising can, is okay from his knee, Utah will beat USC. And I think that puts up a ton of points because I read San Jose State's defense. They lost a lot of players, didn't really replace them. So last year their defense was good, but it probably won't be that good this year. So USC is going to, it'll be a 40-point first half like usual, and they'll score 60 points. I think San Jose State can put up 20. They got a really good quarterback, Cordero. USC doesn't have a real great defense. I can see San Jose State putting up 14, 20 points. USC putting up 50, so you're in the 70s, over under 66. So it could be an over, not a great over, but we'll have to see. Did USC's defense improve? What's San Jose State doing? And pressure like that. And how long does the starter stay out there for Williams? Cordero will probably play most of the game, but looks like a big fit. But again, you're laying 30. It's very hard to lay 30. Do they try the whole game? Do they pull Williams in the fourth quarter? So we'll have to see. But that's what you're dealing with. So don't forget, USC's an over team. USC Notre Dame, over. USC UCLA, over. Not sure about Utah. If they play Washington, over. That's what you're looking for. You've got to understand the team. What are they? Are they overs, unders, A team, or Z team? And so it's basically saying, do they have a really good offense? How's their defense? Do they have a bad offense? How's their defense? Do they have a bad defense? So if they have a good offense and a terrible defense, they're an over. And then you get a team like Georgia with the lights out defense, and then it's how good's their offense. So they're either an A team or an under team. And like Iowa State's a beautiful under team. They great defense, great defensive scheme. They always play these low scoring games against the Texas or Oklahoma or Baylor or TCU. And you don't understand how they keep them down, right? Even Oklahoma, 50 points a game when the other coach was there, and then they'd play Iowa State and it'd be 24-20. I mean, you just, how the hell are they doing it? So they are able to get pressure on. They play two deep zones, so you can't. They slow it down. They run very good, and you can see Brock Purdy was there. So he played very well for what he had. They never really have these star receivers, but they always have very good running backs. And so they run the ball a lot and rest their defense and play two deep zone. And that's kind of what he does. And he's very successful at it. So you just love Iowa State under, even though you shit your pants when it's against Oklahoma or TCU going, oh my God. And then it's 21-20 and you're like, oh, okay. Even Kansas last year, 5 a game. They play Iowa State. They beat them 14-11. I mean, they hold them to 14. It's just amazing. Nobody else could. I think Kansas State was the only other one. Everybody else, they played 30s and 40s. Look at the Arkansas bowl game, was like 42-40. It was an 80-point game. Kansas going against Arkansas, but not Iowa State. So that's what you're looking for, and that's why you look at the stats. But the key is, who are they playing? You don't want Iowa State to be, okay, Texas beats Rice. Do we learn anything? 65-0. Do we learn anything? No. I mean, Rice sucks and Texas is strong offensively. Okay, but if Texas does that to Alabama the next week, that's where we get a feel on how good Texas is. They get Alabama next week. Now, G sent me a thing because she was confused. She said, "Is this Texas Alabama or Texas Rice that should be better?" I said, no, it's Rice. But I saw the line and against Texas. So let's see what Texas looks like. Alabama, we're not going to get a measure on. They're playing Middle Tennessee State, who's not too good this year. They're an over team, but they lost their quarterback. He graduated. So do we trust Texas in 13? The only way we can play them against Alabama is they better show up with defense. But we won't know Texas until they play Alabama, right? They play Alabama. Now what's the score? Okay, 21-20, and maybe Texas wins. Now we get a feel of Texas. They lose 42-0. We see Texas sucks. That's how you can't measure Texas Rice. You can only measure Texas against Alabama, against Arkansas, against LSU, these bigger games, and they play Kansas State, TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma. Then we can measure Texas. And by the way, I'm taking Oklahoma. If Gabriel's healthy, I'm taking Oklahoma in a revenge game there. They lost 49-0 to Texas last year. They're gonna pound them this year. When you blow out a rival, you're in trouble the next year. You got to be careful. 49-0 your rival, who's a good team. Let's see. So Florida International, a Z team, Louisiana Tech's an over team. They lost their quarterback. He's the guy Backenmeyer from Boise, who kind of sucked last year. So he sucks at Boise, loses his job, and ends up at Louisiana Tech. And Florida International is terrible. They're a Z team. So what I look at is I got no defense on either side, and I got a pretty good offense in Tech, although I don't know how good Backenmeyer is because he didn't play that well at Boise. So I'm like, And so it's kind of a wait and see here. Tech should blow them out because Florida National sucks. Is Florida National still a Z team? That's what takes a few weeks to see, and that's what you don't want to get caught at. Tech, how strong are they with the new quarterback? So those are the teams you kind of have a lot of question marks. So why take more risk to get the same reward? Again, you're betting 11-10, or a 3-team teaser, you're getting 110, 120. So you're going to get the same payout with whoever you play. So do I want to play Tech and Florida International game? I don't know. I can say Florida International is a Z, but are they a Z this year? This is last year's Z team. Now, teams like Michigan and Notre Dame had down years because they didn't have a quarterback, and their coaching kind of sucked. And so they brought in, and now Notre Dame with Hartman, Michigan's just running the ball. They're playing Bo style. We're going to run and play defense and play Ohio State. And we're trying to win the Big Ten, and we'll lose every Rose Bowl game. So when they were easier to go from a bad team to a good team once they got the good coach in and a better quarterback. I still think Michigan's quarterback sucks. And it's curious, Hartman went to Notre Dame and not Michigan or Ohio State. See, this is where Ohio State's got problems. They let Joe Burrow go. They don't like that style quarterback. You got to be out of your fucking mind. What is Ohio State's problem? So here, maybe they could have had Hartman, and they'd have been in the championship game against Georgia with Hartman, and they could beat them with Hartman. But now they got, I don't know, new quarterback. How good is he? We'll see. They got a weak Indiana team. They should score 50 points on them. But again, we'll see. And that's really when you have that doubt. Alabama, new quarterback. Ohio State, new quarterback. Florida, new quarterback. It's you got to watch them and see how they do because it's a gel thing, right? How do they fit? How do they read their offense and defense, the timing with the receivers and the running backs? And that's what they need to do is get all that timing down. That's why I bitch about the preseason games. When the quarterbacks don't play in the preseason games, they don't have the timing down with the receivers. But yet Mahomes plays in them. Burrow would have played in it, but he hurt his calf. So that you understand, but I think he would have played in them. But some of these guys, Russell Wilson's playing in it, you need to get the timing down. And Sean Payton, believe me, we're going to be betting Denver a whole lot this year because they're going to be under spread because they stunk last year. They didn't stink last year. They had a terrible coach. So he's now the Jets offensive coordinator with Rodgers, which is where he belongs as an offensive coordinator. Not all coordinators can be head coaches, although Lombardi proved that wrong. And so this is last year's analysis, but now that's all we have. We don't know how they are this year. They haven't played anybody, but we kind of have a feeling the teams are pretty consistent year over year. I'm still expecting Kansas to be an over and Georgia to be an under and SC to be an over. So I'm still expecting that. UCLA's got a new quarterback. Let's see how he is. But I think Chip Kelly, he's going to run the same offense, and he's teaching the quarterback what to look for, the reads, the defense. So I'd rather have a UCLA quarterback than an Ohio State quarterback or an Alabama quarterback 100% of the time. 8:31, which is now Thursday. Kent State, UCF. Kent State is an over team. However, their quarterback ran to UCLA. I don't know if he's starting there or not. And a new coach in Burns. I don't know. UCF has Plumlee. They're an A team. So they put up a lot of points, had a pretty good defense. They're an A team and got Plumlee from Ole Miss as their quarterback. He's a running quarterback pretty much. But they put up a lot of points. So they're laying 36 to Kent State. I think that's way too high. Kent State's not a Z team. You can do that against the Z team, right? If they were playing Florida International, maybe you could lay 36. You can't lay 36 to Kent State. All right, kind of a weak defense, but they had a good offense. Then they had a balanced offense. They would score 30 points and give up 30 points. So keep that in mind. So Kent State's not that bad. That's why I rank them. So a Z team like Texas and Rice, Rice is a W. They score maybe 20, but they give up 40. Texas, we know, and we're betting it on Arch Manning. But Texas is an A team. They got a good defense. They got a strong offense. The quarterback's back, and Rice is a very weak team. So, yes, there I will lay 35. Well, in our world, 29.5. That I will do because they're going to kill them, and they kill them every year. And Texas is pissed, and they, so they need a big game. Anyway, so that's what you're looking for when you got UCF, who are they that explosive, but Kent's not that weak. We want to do Say's Law. We want to do Art of War. We want to find the weak teams, and when they play a good offense, bury the weak team. And that's what we're doing with Texas, kind of what we're doing with Army. That's the thought. They're both very weak W teams, and my team should bury them. But the other thing is the spread. Army's just laying 9.5. Well, what's 7.5? They're only laying 9.5. I mean, so you're laying 3.5. Okay, it's over a field goal. If you want, play a 7-point teaser, get it to 2.5. But that's fine. I mean, it should be that close. I mean, when I pick this game, I'm assuming Army by 21, especially with their new offense and Lou Monroe, no defense. Army's going to own the ball. 30 minutes of the what is it? What are they? A 48-minute game. They're going to own it 35 minutes. They're going to run it down their throats and methodically, 28-0 or something. Anyway, so Kent State, I think, is a little too strong for 36 points. Although they have a new coach, we will see. But they had talent. NC State and UConn. NC State's an under team. Leary went to Kentucky, their quarterback. NC State, well coached, new quarterback. I think he transferred in from Virginia or Virginia Tech. And UConn, with the new coach, has been playing. They're a W team. They started to score a little bit more and had a little better defense, but they're improving. They're not a Z team anymore, but they're still pretty bad. NC State, really strong defense. They're laying 14.5. New quarterback. Now, Larry, I thought was a good quarterback, didn't really do very well, so I'm surprised he left to go to Kentucky. But NC State, 14.5. I think it's a big number at Connecticut, but we'll see. They'll probably shut out Connecticut because Connecticut has a weak offense, and NC State's always got a very strong defense. A lot of good defensive linemen go to the pros and their secondary. So look for NC State, maybe 27-0 or 27-3. I don't see Connecticut scoring. So again, what are we looking at? The defense. We're looking at NC State's defense, and we're going strong defense. Look what they'll do. Florida, Utah, I've talked about. Again, Utah's an A team, especially with Rising. Although I think the backup with 4.5, I still would have taken Florida and 1.5 to win at home, even with the backup. You can't be that bad and start, back up at Utah. Florida over team. They scored a lot with Richardson running, basically didn't throw, but they don't have a defense. So defense goes to Utah. They got a great defense. Florida's got no defense. Now you add Rising to the mix, and that's where I'm getting all excited is I got offense to go with defense. You don't have offense with Graham Mertz, and you don't have a defense. So you're almost like a W team, Florida. And I got an A team, and I'm dead even. I'm laying 1 point. I would have laid 9.5. I would have probably 7-pointed it down to 2.5. But in this situation, loving Utah. It's a red out. It's a revenge game. So all these other variables, it's like Penn State plays the white out. Michigan plays whatever the fuck they play. And so when the crowd, Penn usually, Ohio State has a tough time, but they end up winning a lot. But you're getting emotional. See, this is college versus pro. You get the emotion in college. Notre Dame with the green jersey game. Now, nobody mentioned that it was Joe Montana was the quarterback of the green jersey game against USC. Anyway, with that thought in mind, you're going to get a frenzy. So you're going to get that emotion from Utah. And it's a revenge game. And Rising really wants to play, so he's playing. Still probably not 100% and a strong defense. In Florida, they're good in the swamp because of the heat. Well, you don't got heat in Utah. You're in the mountains. They're all going to be dying because it's less oxygen in the mountains, right? So Utah has a huge advantage. Red out, Rising playing. They're all excited. Better coach team. Florida really doesn't have a chance here. If they win, I'll be absolutely shocked. If Graham Mertz has this huge day, where was he at Wisconsin? So that's kind of the ultimate there. So this was my challenge to Nick when he wanted to use mathematical formulas. Now I respect that, but it doesn't work here. How do you put that in? Okay, add a point for white out or red out. Add 2 points for a revenge game. Add how many points because Rising's playing. Add how many points because it's probably the second best defense in the country. How do you mathematically put that in? And you really can't. You can't mathematically put in emotion. That's kind of what I was trying to teach him. Was like, I know you want to do it, and I'm a math person, statistics, obviously, finance, economics, all that. But there's nothing, I don't know how to capture emotion except for I know when I got a red out, I want to bet on the red out team, or I want to bet Penn State in a white out versus the other. I had a huge lock, Penn State, Michigan, when Michigan killed them in Ann Arbor. And I think it was B's senior season, and they do a white out on Michigan, and I locked Penn State, And the opening kickoff, Barkley takes it 100 yards for a touchdown. And I'm like, game over. And they won by like 35 points. And I'm laying 1 or 2. And you get these whiteout, you get the emotions behind you. And that's why I look and I talk Oklahoma, Texas. It's a revenge game. Oklahoma will be pissed off. They lost 49-0. I think Gabriel got hurt in the game. So Oklahoma is going to be very emotional. Now, will it work if TCU play Georgia? Probably not. It doesn't work. It depends how the team is. But if it's Georgia, like Tennessee might have a revenge game on the mind, and they'll probably play a very good game, but it's Georgia. You ain't beating Georgia because Georgia will be scared, and they'll play good too. It's got to be against the team that you can beat. So Oklahoma could beat Texas. They have the talent, and they lost 49-0. So emotionally, Oklahoma is going to be sky high for the game. And that's what you look at. That's why the rivalries, USC, UCLA, both teams are sky high. Both emotional. And those are the keys you're looking at. And I don't think you see that much in the pro. Excuse me. You see a little rivalry, Dallas, Washington, and Dallas, Philly, and Dallas and the Giants, and pretty much anybody Dallas plays, and Oakland, Kansas City is a very intense rivalry still. San Diego and Kansas City, San Diego and Oakland, and there's a few where they have it. Not much else I can think of. Maybe Cincinnati, Pittsburgh used to be, but now Cincinnati's the better. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, very emotional games. So that's the key to the rivalry. But most of the pros, now they're so worried about shaking each other's hands and helping the guys up. It's disgusting. It's hard to watch. But college, they'll nail them. So those are very key, important things. So that's why I've added Utah to the free pick list with Army and Texas. One more, Minnesota, Nebraska. Minnesota's 7.5. Now they're a B team. They score in upper 20s, and their defense is, I think, a 15. And Nebraska's terrible. They're a W team, and they've got a new coach in Matt Rule, who's more of a defensive coach. Both have new quarterbacks. So I look for this. The key to this game is Minnesota's defense is just going to shut out Nebraska. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have an offense. They got a weak defense, but Minnesota really won't be able to take much advantage of it. They're going to pound the ball at them. So probably Minnesota wins at home, -1.5. I just don't think Nebraska has the offense or defense. Now, with the new coach, the defense probably gets a little tougher. So it probably leans to a lower scoring game. Do I take Nebraska as the dog? I don't see, that they're going to score a lot on Minnesota. So I can't fuck with the defense of Minnesota, right? You can't fuck with that, so it leads you the other way. And then we got I'll do the 9-1. So Miami is an even team last year against Miami of Ohio, who's an under team. And Miami with Van Dyke and going to an air raid are going to be an over team again. They'll score 40 points a game. I don't know how good their defense is. Miami of Ohio doesn't really have a good quarterback. And Gabbert, I guess his brother's the Gabbert in the NFL, but he doesn't score a lot. They do have a fairly good defense, but you're not going to fuck with Van Dyke. When you got the star quarterback, a defense will bother him. Maybe a Florida State or an LSU, one of those defenses, but not a Miami of Ohio. A strong Miami of Ohio defense is good in the MAC, in conference, but not against Van Dyke. So I think Miami puts up a big number on them, I think. Central Michigan, Michigan State. Thorne, I thought was the quarterback, is the quarterback of Auburn. Little did I know he transferred. in the guide, he's still there. So it's a late transfer, I guess. Central Michigan, we like the coach, new quarterback. So both teams have new quarterbacks. Both teams have no defense. They're kind of good offensive teams. But Michigan State lost their quarterback and their best receiver. The transfer's out. I don't like the coach. So I don't know if Michigan State is going to be able to blow out Central, which is what you got. 14.5 goes, do I take 20? Do I go down to 8? Do I go over under? I have no idea. Looking at this, I got two weak defenses, but I don't have offenses that can take advantage. So again, art of war, my strength has to go against your weakness. So if I have Van Dyke and you have a weak defense, he's going to light you up. But if I don't have a good quarterback and you don't have a good defense, it's a stalemate. I don't know what to do with it. So let's see. I think Michigan State's going to suck this year. I saw my coin guy in the coin store yesterday, and he's a Michigan State fan, and he goes, "How's Michigan State going to do?" And I says, he kind of said shit. And I guess his daughter lost power because I says, "Oh, you want some football picks? I'll trade you gold for football picks." Seems like a good trade for me. And he said he was busy. His daughter lost power. He says, "We'll do it next week." I said, "That's fine." Louisville, Georgia Tech. Louisville gets a new coach in Brom. Georgia Tech gets a new coach in Key. Both have new quarterbacks. Louisville last year was a kind of an over team, and Georgia Tech was a W team. Both teams' defense suck, but Louisville scores a lot. Georgia Tech doesn't. Now you bring in Brian Brom from Purdue, his son or brother, I don't know, another Brom, offensive coordinator. I look for Louisville to do it when he was there the first time and put up the 40s. So that's your key, right? What changes, right? And you got a new coach who's an offensive coach. They're probably going to score a lot, like Tennessee, like TCU, like UCLA. They bring in these offensive coaches. All of a sudden, they start scoring 50 a game. And that's really what you got to – that's why you got to pay attention. Miami brought in an offensive coordinator, going to run the air raid. Texas State brought in an air raid offense. North Texas brought in a Mike Leach assistant, going to run an air raid offense. So you've got to be conscious of maybe they bring in a defense. Like Oregon brought in the Georgia defensive coordinator, and they're scoring 50 points a game. And you're like, he's the defense coordinator of Georgia. What the fuck? So I don't really understand Oregon scoring as much as they are. I don't understand Oklahoma scoring as much as they are because, well, I think what he did was he gets Gabriel from UCF. He brought in the UCF offensive coordinator to run the UCF offense. That's why they're scoring. But he's the defensive coordinator at Clemson, and they're not playing defense. And I think that's because you're playing air offense. And when you play air raid offense, you don't play they don't understand if you throw the ball as much as you do, you don't rest your defense. Your defense goes down a couple notches. Georgia understands it, and they run the ball a lot, and he hits Brock Bowers for little 10-yard gains. You don't see Georgia do a 3-play, 90-yard drive. They do a 10-play, 90-yard, a lot of running, short throws, tight end, a lot of keep the ball, keep the defense rested. When their defense comes out and they're 3 deep at every position and they're all NFL players, that's why you can't score on Georgia, right? They don't play this let's throw the ball over. Unfortunately, Alabama doesn't understand that. So Alabama's playing let's throw it, and look at their defense is going down. They could have lost 4 games last year. They played a 50-49 Tennessee. Have you ever heard Alabama with Nick Saban giving up 50 points in one game? That shows you the problem. So they play a slick passing team. They're going to have problems with Tennessee again. And they give up 50 points. And then they'll say, well, we only lost by 1. You gave up 50 points. You're not a good team. And they played a close one with LSU. So they played close, but, that's what you got to look at. And then Georgia plays Tennessee, and they beat them 26-13, I think. It was like 26-6 late in the 4th, and Tennessee got a late touchdown. So funny how Georgia played them and kept them under 14, but gives up 50 on them. That shows you the difference, and it's the offense, and only somebody like me can understand that and pick it up and go, that's why. And if you notice, Dan Fouts and Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl because they played this fast-paced offense and they'll rest their defense. Eventually, defense wears out and they run it on you and they keep your offense off the field. The next thing you know, you don't make the Super Bowl. You must be able to run the ball. You must have mix. Even Kansas City, Mahomes doesn't throw the ball every play. He runs chocolate Eclair and Pacheco and all these guys and little passes to Kelsey. When he needs it, he does these 4 or 5 yard play drives, but not all the time. It's only, okay, there's a minute left in the game, like against Cincinnati, and then he throws these 30-yard passes. But most of the game, it's short, it's running, it's let's burn the clock and rest my defense. So Kansas City gets it. Cincinnati with Burrow gets it. You cannot be just a strictly passing team. So Louisville, this, 8.5 on paper. We got to get used. I don't know who the new quarterback is. I think later in the year they would kill Georgia Tech. I don't know about this week, but with Brom, I think Louisville will score a lot, and Georgia Tech can't do anything because they don't have a defense. Georgia Tech will see what their new coach and how they're going to score. So it's a really unknown right now. Stanford and Hawaii, they're both Z teams. They both suck. We'll have a lot of fun betting against Stanford in the Pac-10, Utah, UCLA, Washington State, Oregon State, the Arizona schools. They'll all light up Stanford. So we will see that. Against Hawaii, Hawaii might be a live dog here. Or I don't think this is an over. The over is 58, but Stanford really isn't that good. And I think we'll see what happens with the Hawaii Vanderbilt. That's why I'm anxious to see if they can put up 30 points. They can put up 30 points at Vanderbilt, then they can beat Stanford. If they get shut out, there's not much we can do. We can just watch and maybe they get better. Otherwise, they suck and we can't bet them. And we'll preview the Army and the Texas. So Army is a B team. I think I already discussed them. Strong defense. Lou Monroe, a W team. They don't score a lot. They have a weak defense. Army should run up and down the field. New offensive coordinator, so they should pass the ball a little bit better, which they need against Wake Forest and Coastal Carolina. They gave up 40 points, but they couldn't score enough. So now when they get behind, they'll be more apt to be able to throw the ball and get back in the game. So definitely Army is going to be much improved offensively. They have a good defense, well coached. So that's why I like Army. And then Texas, again, an A team against the W and Rice, and an under, a good defense. So that's why I feel comfortable. Texas's offense should take advantage of Rice's weak defense. Rice should not score on this Texas defense, maybe in the fourth quarter. So I feel pretty comfortable with this big spread of 35. And then I got Arch Manning coming in to clean up in the fourth quarter, and he's going to be throwing, and he'll get a few touchdowns. So even if it's close, when Arch Manning time, he'll throw a few touchdowns. So I think you're going to see a very high-scoring game. But it won't mean anything. That's what you were expecting, 59-0. What will be of interest will be the Alabama game next week. Now, if they can put up a number on Alabama, and they could beat Alabama because Alabama's quarterback sucks. So they got a weak quarterback. So we will see. All right, so that's it there. We'll quickly check injuries for this week. So again, college football injuries, I go to covers.com. It lists all the teams and all the injuries. So we'll just go to today's game. What do we got? Man, let's see. UCF, no injuries. Connecticut, no injuries. Now, Florida's got a bunch of injuries. Florida, tight end questionable, wide receiver questionable, tight end questionable, another wide receiver questionable, quarterback questionable, but not the starter. Another wide receiver questionable, running back out for the season, lineman out for the season, defensive lineman out for the season. So they've got 1, 2, 3 wide receivers that are questionable, and 1 running back who's out for the season, and 2 tight ends that are questionable. So I don't care if they're all healthy as betting Utah, but now it even makes it better. Florida Atlantic, no. Florida International, nobody injured. Florida State, no injuries. Georgia's got some. They've lost 1 running back out for the season, 1 wide receiver out indefinitely, a tight end, but not Brock Bowers, out with an ankle. A running back, Milton, questionable with a hamstring. But they don't play anybody this week. They play next. So hopefully, Robinson, the running back, out for the season, is obviously gone. Meeks, the wide receiver, out with a foot. And the tight end, Lucky, is out indefinitely. And the other guys are 4 questionables. So they got 3 guys out, a running back, receiver, tight end. But they are very deep. Let's see. Georgia Tech, wide receiver, out for the season. Hawaii, running back, questionable with the knee for today. Houston, running back, out for the season. Iowa's got a lot of injuries. Keep an eye on Iowa. So Cade McNamara from Michigan is questionable with a quad. They play next week. Defensive lineman out for the season. And then they got 3 wide receivers, possible suspension, questionable with a foot, and an undisclosed. And their backup quarterback is questionable. So Iowa's got big trouble. They had 4 wide receivers out last year. That's why they couldn't score. McNamara is pretty good, but now he's got an injury. So they could be a very strong under because they're not going to score. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll circle Iowa under. Iowa State, nothing. Kent State, nothing. LSU, Bobby's boys, defensive tackle is eligible. Running back, questionable, but that's next week. L-Tech, running back's fine. Another running back's out. There's no point in knowing the name because we don't know the names. I mean, who the hell? If I told you Crosby, the running back, L-Tech is out Saturday, does that mean anything? No, it doesn't. Louisville, a DB, which is good for the over. UMass, running back, is out. There you go. Miami, no injuries. And Miami of Ohio, no injuries. Michigan State, no injuries. Middle Tennessee, they play Alabama. Navy today. Quarterback Clayton is questionable with academics, and a wide receiver is out for Navy. Let's go to Notre Dame. Mexico State, no injuries. Notre Dame. Reardon, let's see. So I've got Notre Dame's roster right here. So their starting tight end is Evans and Stias, and these 2 tight ends are not them. So they're backup tight ends. Reardon's out with the knee. Bowman's out with the knee. Wide receiver Smith is not even on the 6th thing. They list the first and second team on the depth charts, and Smith isn't. So these Notre Dame injuries, while they're there, aren't relevant. They're not starters, and that's why you need to check with the guide because they're not going to give you. They used to, and another one they would bold if it was a starter. None of these guys are nothing. Ohio, nothing. Ohio State, a tight end. Oklahoma State are good. Oregon State, 2 wide receivers. Penn State's fine. Pitt's fine. Purdue's fine. Rice, Rutgers, nobody. San Jose State, tight end, a running back, and a receiver are all questionable for today. But nothing really. Cordero's their quarterback. These guys, I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're not betting on them. South Carolina, one receiver is questionable. That's next week. USC, no injuries. SMU, no injuries. Tennessee, 2 running backs. One's out till October. One's out. One's questionable. But again, they play nobody. Texas, running back is questionable. TCU, nothing. UTEP, nothing. Texas Tech's they had a receiver out with a collarbone and then 3 questionables. UTSA, no injuries. UCLA, no injuries. UL Monroe, no injuries. Utah, probable. Cam Rising, tight end. Kuthi, really good. Probable. So really nothing. The backup quarterback, I don't even know if it's the second or third string, is questionable, but we don't care about him. We only care about Rising. Now, I wanted to look at Washington State. Now, Washington State has a great defense. Let's go Pac-10. LMNO. Okay. So I'm wondering if this guy, Washington State. Oh, here's Utah. Let's see if this Rose guy's anything. Rose is a freshman. He's a good freshman. So he's listed as the backup. So we'll see. Washington State. The defensive end, Faltia. No, he's not. Their defensive ends that are good are Jackson and Stone. They're both seniors. They both came back this year. They have a great defense. They had a great defense last year. So this guy, you just don't pay attention to. Defensive back Lockhart. Now, he is a starter coming back. He's doubtful with the hand. And then what the fuck? Keep getting this little error message across the screen, which is really process system isn't responding. Like, what the fuck? Why does it darken my screen and give me this message like this? Such a pain in the ass. Just a second. So nothing too bad. Wide receivers, Sheffield, God, they got a 4. His one of the 4. Smithson is a backup. Payne, so it's not the defensive end I was worried about. And then Wisconsin already has 2 fours. They already have 8 guys on the injured list, although 4 of them are probable. A tight end's out, and another tight end's doubtful, and an offensive lineman is out. So that's going to hurt Wisconsin. They want to run the air raid, but the receivers are probable. So from an injury standpoint, nothing major, which is key. That's what you want to see. And so what you're looking for is matchups. I don't want to fuck with a good defensive team. If they have a weak defense, then my offense should run up and down the field if I have offense. And that's really what I'm looking for. So let's see. So Louisiana Tech should run up and down the field. Well, we don't know. They got a new quarterback. Let's see, where's that? Utah should run up and down the field on Florida because they don't have they have a weak defense and I have a strong offense. That's why I needed rising. Miami, that's not doesn't fit. Louisville could run up and down the field on Georgia Tech once we get everything situated with the quarterback. Army should run up and down the field on Lou Monroe. Texas should run up and down the field. Ohio State, we got to see how the quarterback is, but they are a good offense going against the weak defense. Same thing with Western Kentucky, a strong offense going against the weak defense. So you're looking for matchups. And if you notice the upsets, they tend to happen with the strong defensive team. Washington State, Iowa State, Iowa. That's your upset. TCU beating Michigan wasn't an upset at all. I was totally shocked Michigan was favored by 7.5. I took TCU. Getting 13.5 in that game was a joke. Michigan likes to run the ball. TCU had a strong defense. They did. It just didn't show up against Georgia. They were just in awe of Georgia, but not in Michigan. And so the better team won the game, and it was a very even game, and it's taking the dog. TCU, there was no way that Michigan was going to stop them because I watched TCU all year against Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State. If they got down, they would come from behind to win. They just were winners. And the thing with TCU this year, their starting quarterback is back. Duggan was not their starting quarterback. He got beaten out, and the guy got hurt. Duggan took over because he was a senior. He got drafted. He's on one roster. I don't know what he's doing, but I did see his name in the box score. And then we got but the starting quarterback was hurt, is back now. So TCU really is probably stronger this year than they were last year. Good offensive coach. They got to the championship game. I'm sure they got a lot of people on the portal who are good, who want to join. And they're the cream of that crop until somebody beats them. Could be Baylor this year. Could be Kansas State. Gave them trouble last year. I don't think Kansas, unless they develop a defense, they're just going to be a high-scoring team like Texas Tech, basically. That'll be a fun bet, Texas Tech, Kansas, over under 95, and we'll go over with it. So that's it. So today, let's start. We'll look at all the games, and we'll look at the box scores tomorrow. There was exhibition games and pro football. I don't really want to. I'll get into that tomorrow. I don't want to waste time with that. Now, one thing I did show you. So that's college football. If you have any questions, one thing I wanted to show you. All these system problems. What the fuck? Okay, so one thing I wanted to show you was this, which I showed last night. So it's official. Brics drops U.S. dollar for settlements, and that's key. So they have to go to a new currency, and their new currency is going to be backed by gold. Economic tide shift, and it's a landmark decision. The BRICS economy bloc has decided to cut ties with the U.S. Well, that's not surprising. All these countries want to get out of the dollar because the U.S. is really, they're not nice people because they sit there and they blackmail you. If you don't do, you can have our money, but there's conditions to it. What the fuck is that? I think that's terrible business. All right, I'm going to show you a little bit of Mark McGuire yesterday.
A gas mask already, consider getting one. Because according to a recently leaked, they called it a possible threat to world order.
They now have to keep printing.
We've got this ticking time bomb.
Talking gold with the one and only Andrew Maguire. Welcome to Live
on the trustless blockchain. Now, the New World Economic Order's settlement currency addresses all important liquidity. This is the
from the Big House, Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor.
These commodities, which in aggregate is going to provide a stable index to benchmark a new world currency, such as would suit the Brics Development Bank, all seamlessly settled on the trustless blockchain. Now, the New World Economic Order's settlement currency addresses all important. A central bank.
Okay. About 10 minutes of Mark Maguire on gold. Very important.
We're looking at Kinesis. And it brings, and as I say, I don't believe there's any coincidence here that this is timed with the Brics launch of discussions of bringing people in, 30, 40 new members into the Brics fold, who all require a similar, very similar, and likely gold-backed, because, as we've said before, Glaziev has put together a project which has been agreed by these nations, and really has to be gold-backed.
Yes, and Andrew, in our last episode, you also had some breaking news, an exclusive update from Sergei Glaziev, personally outlining and identified structures relating to the planned Brics commodity currency. The Brics Summit is underway right now. What are you hearing?
Yeah, this is exciting stuff. And good God, as the mainstream media tried to push this out. And I mean, I have to say thanks, because I wouldn't have had this information had it not been for Vadim, who bringing attention to this. Sergei Glaziev outlining, as he put it, as Glaziev put it, the new method of settlement in the international trade between Brics countries. Now, the mainstream media have been desperately trying to play this down. And we delved into this much deeper in our last episode. But in summary, the new currency unit he outlines creates a sanction-proof mechanism to settle trades between participants. But it's being launched in parallel to existing methods. Now, while this currency ultimately competes with the dollar, the immediate focus is not on undermining the dollar, but running alongside it. Now, the mainstream media just don't get this. As far as their narrative goes, you are either with the dollar or against it. Hence the bearish narrative around the traction the Brics currency will gain. And as Bloomberg put it on Monday morning, they called it a possible threat to world order. Now, isn't it funny? On Monday morning, I heard that as soon as I switched on Bloomberg, and then since then, they haven't talked about it. And I think they were probably told to mute that line. Now, what is unreported is that Russia began trialing physical gold on the trustless blockchain back in January. And the digital gold grams required to power the upcoming gold-backed digital currency is now well proven and is ready to handle the hundreds of tons required to monetize this currency. Now, subscribers will recall that Sparebank was sanctioned to begin trialing this digital gold on the Stellar blockchain at the open of January trading. We drew attention to it. And we have reports that this element has become part of the process and is now fully functioning. And as we've just drawn attention to, the proof's in the pudding, and it's no coincidence that in spite of weakness in the ruble, spot gold consistently trades tick for tick at a $2 to $3 premium to local London gold, and the Moscow physically settled futures market is matching an average of a $3 premium over December COMEX futures. Interestingly, today, just before the rally, we saw a $29.50 premium in the Moscow futures versus the December contract, which was smack in the middle between the between the February contract and the April contract. So they were clearly significantly betting on higher prices. So why is this happening? Why are they bidding more? Why is the spot market bidding consistently? So as to attract gold sellers seeking a better price. than they're getting in London. And whilst while these central banks are loading their coffers to back this multipolar new world economic currency, Russia is building their bullion reserves. It's so clear. And this leads into Glasnev's two-stage commodity basket structure, which we did outline in more detail in the last episode. And these two currency baskets have two separate purposes. The first one is consisting of national currencies, and that was similar to the SDR, and that encompasses kind of a balanced basket weight formation. But the major focus is on the second basket, which is really the key component, and that comprises of 20 of the most liquid commodities, filtered grain, including this gold anchor. Now, the most liquid commodities, including gold, of which Russia produces all of these commodities, which in aggregate is going to provide a stable index to benchmark a new world currency, such as would suit the Brics Development Bank, or seamlessly settled. Settlement currency addresses all important liquidity. This is the one question which the mainstream media underestimates. Bypassing banks and thereby these sanctions, Glasnev estimates this will attract thousands of brokers to main markets, and who we understand from our other contacts in Russia have already expressed this interest. But the key takeaway is that this pricing platform circumvents the current Western commodity pricing monopoly. And to that end, he provided that example, which I thought was a good example, of the Ukrainian grain deal imbalance, where Western speculator-driven markets were able to buy the grain 2 times cheaper than they sold it for, while Africa was starving. Now, directly following the BRICS Plus summit, the currency and innovation infrastructure meetings move over to Moscow on Monday. And among the BRICS participants, some 30 countries from Asia and the Middle East will attend. So as far as gold and silver is concerned, at the margin, this price-setting platform will pose serious competition against the COMEX, CME, LBMA monopoly. And the Fed and the Western...
So that's what we've been waiting for, right? How many times do you guys ask me, when's COMEX going to blow up? When's COMEX going to blow up? And now we know here we finally, the way to get a monopoly means there's no competition. That's why the U.S. is great, is it's always been a very competition. That's Austrian economics, right? You compete, and then I got to get better, and I got to lower my price, and I got to have, that's why there's Coke and Pepsi, right? In a monopoly, there'd only be, let's say, Coke. Pepsi wouldn't be allowed. And then Coke could make crappy pop and charge $1,000 a bottle for it. They don't care because there's no competition. If you want pop, that's what you'll pay for it. And that's what's happening with the COMEX, right? They marked down the gold to $2,000 an ounce or $19.20 an ounce. And my contention is that they didn't, that's not the real price. So when I go buy gold, like I did yesterday, I showed you I bought the 1/10 of an ounces. When you have that, you're buying it undervalued. It's not the real price. So I bought it for $200. I bought 2 10 ounces, 200 a piece. If I bought 10, it would be $2,000 for 10 of them, right? But I didn't want to spend, that's why I didn't buy the ounce. I didn't want to spend it. But the price was so good, it was an offer I couldn't refuse. Now, he had an Eagle, was $250 for a 1/10 of an ounce, and I got 2 Maple Leafs. I don't know why they were $50 cheaper, but I bought them. I was going to buy silver, and I said, shit, well, really, I wanted to buy a 1/2 ounce of gold. But because he didn't have any quarters or halves, he either had the ounce or the 10ths. But he had Cougarans, and I got enough Cougarans, and I was like, well, I don't know. But at this point, I was looking for less. But because he had the 1/10 of an ounce at such a cheap price, I bought it. Because that's always the argument. If you pay $250 for a US and you bought 10 of them to get to your ounce, you're spending $2,500 per ounce instead of $2,000. But the Maple Leafs at 200 a piece, that's 2,000. It's the same. It's a good price. Anyway, the point being that I know I'm buying a gold coin that's worth far more than he's pricing it at, because they don't know what they're doing. It's spot plus premium. My friends go, should I pay the premium? What's this premium? And I go, who cares? You're buying a $20,000 ounce gold at probably the real market price, but for the price mark, for the fixed price market, it's only 2,000. So every time I buy an ounce at 2,000, I know I just bought a $20,000 ounce of gold, and it's all I can eat. It's all I can. All my money's out of the bank. All my money's out of the stock, and it's all in the gold and silver because I know that's all dirt cheap. But I understand it like I understand football, right? I'm going for a good offense against a weak defense. I figured out the key, and that's exactly what this is. The gold is really priced higher. So we're going to get rid of COMEX. Beautiful. Now gold and silver can run to their real prices. So let's a few more.
Global Alliance have ensnared themselves in around 2 quadrillion of derivative exposure, reliant on keeping control of their unipolar commodity price setting monopoly. And yet they're not ready for the launch of this Glazniev's gold-backed multipolar new world economic currency. Hence the attempts to push back against it. Absolute farce to push back against it. It's coming. And while the narrative is that the dollar is king, and indeed it does offer a unit of account and a means of exchange, undoubtedly it does, but it lacks the single most important element, a store of value. And the Brics value, the Brics Plus, is not focused on destroying the dollar. Okay, it's simply adding a competing gold-backed currency to facilitate settlements of a very large component of the currently US dollar denominated global commodity trade. And however, as far as gold's concerned, due to the current paper market leverage suppressing gold, again, it's all at the margin. This increasing demand for physical gold to ultimately back up this multi-trillion-dollar commodity trade, and it is a multi-trillion-dollar commodity trade, will increasingly raise the offer price of gold in the global markets and place this wrong-footed Fed further on the back foot. It's time to take advantage of them. Glaziev reports that this currency boilerplate has already been largely agreed by Brics members, with India and China officially watching from the sidelines. However, our feedback, as we said last time, from our contacts in Russia indicate no opposition and a readiness to participate. And the Brics statements made by Xi and others and Brazil really confirm that they are ready to participate. And by next year, the Brics conference, which is Russia presiding with that, will likely formally announce these already developed new currency units being launched. But they are functioning. And as we've already identified, this is enabling Indian buyers to circumvent the LBMA ring fence while taking advantage of this gamed global PM fixed prices that benchmark real physical exchanges. So now liquidity providers also report these off-grid settlements bleeding into all these physical exchanges, all benchmarked to the 2 London COMEX diluted PM fixes. Now, given the consistent spot premium offered by Russia, this lack of Asian market flow through the rigged LBMA London fixes is misinterpreted as a lack of interest in gold. Whereas these flows, and look at what you read in the media, and by these so-called experts, where these flows are actually and will increasingly be facilitated through other channels. It's that simple as they evolve. And first-tier market-making banks will be aware of this, whereas the Fed, again, the only central bank short gold, is once again wrong-footed. Now, is it any wonder every participating central bank, except the Fed, is openly and surreptitiously accumulating physical gold? We know they are. I hope you know. The only question is, guys, how much physical gold do you own?
All right, thank you. And
I don't own enough, but I own lots, but I want to own lots more. Let's put it that way. Just 1 second. All right. So why did I bring that up? Because we talk economics as well as football here. And it was a big weekend for gold. And they're announcing that they're killing the monopoly, bringing the competition in, which is critical. So after we earn our money, we then don't want to leave it in the Titanic, which is my pet name for this crashing. Is like the Titanic crashing, and we get the money out into gold and silver, and that's what I did yesterday. I bought two more, basically a quarter ounce more of gold, and just buying it cheap and waiting for it to go up. And as I talk about movies, Attack on Wall Street and Madoff and everything, I was watching a different thing on Madoff on YouTube, not on Netflix. And, they get into it a little different than they did on Netflix, where, these accountants in the beginning were in on it too. The SEC, his attorney, what they didn't say on Netflix. So, his attorney, this Ira guy, was really the SEC's attorney. So I guarantee you he paid him, and then he ran the SEC investigations. That's why they never did anything. If he's the fucking head of it and he's the attorney for the SEC, no wonder the SEC didn't do anything, which I always thought they were on the take, and JP Morgan's always on the take. But I like to give you the whole presentation. So football, we've got fairly well figured out in college. Had a terrific year last year, got the concepts down. And I've been doing this since 77, and I really keep inventing new concepts. I am very good at analyzing and figuring out the new trend. What's important? What's a good trend to look at? So before it was Montana, and I'd bet the Steelers, and I'd bet all these teams. And now lately it's been more of, oh shit, look at let's go with the defensive teams. I always would have bet Mahomes and Burrow, but now it's who's the best defense. And that's really hard in the NFL. They don't play defense, but in college I can come up with a good 10 of them that are very strong defensive teams. And that's why Georgia beats Tennessee, because the defense will beat a good offense. But again, that's lessons learned, and that's what you should be looking out for. Here we go. I have really one lock going, but really if I was to make the picks, I'll probably I have one lock going today. A game today with, I don't know who the lock's with. I think with the game next week. And then I was going to lock Utah, but I can't lock them because of I've already locked it. That's my problem with teasers. So I like these two teams and I lock them, and then there's injuries. So I got to back off of that, find a third team, which maybe is not as strong. And then do I relock like Utah? So right now they're not locked, but they're played in a couple of teasers. So www.teaserking.com's got my picks, got my locks, got my betting strategy, and what I'm betting on. Again, I'm not betting every game. I can analyze every game, but there's different strengths and weaknesses that you get in analyzing it. But what I've learned in football, I use in economics and gold and competition. And that's the whole key to it. That's what you kind of use that in every, like Austrian economics teaches me about competition, teaches me about invisible hand and supply and demand and limited, and helps my baseball card collecting if it's a limited card. And now I'm out of stocks because I can see that because you're printing too many dollars, you're killing the value. That's how I caught on to the inflation. Inflation is printing too many dollars, making it worth nothing, not prices. Prices are the effect because now it takes more dollars to buy it. So because I saw them doing it, then I could think forward and say, well, wait, I got to get out of the dollar. I got to get out of the stock market. I've never been in the bonds. I now with all this things that's blowing up, I got to get out of the banks. I got out of my 401k or pension or whatever you want to call it. I'm out of all that. Then I watch a movie, Assault on Wall Street, and the guy loses 60,000 because he listens to an idiot broker who's only in it for his commissions. He's not in it for the guy. So he's not trying to make the guy money. He's trying to make himself money. Well, that's the problem with Wall Street. That's why do you want to be in stocks? You think the dollar's controlled, the stocks are controlled. They can make anything go up and down they want to. That's what they try to do. So understanding all that, you're really only out as gold because nobody can fuck with you. You can't print them. You have it in your hand. Nobody can say, oh, it went down to zero. Oh, your real estate trusts, attack on Wall Street, it went to zero. He lost 60,000. Well, if he's in gold, he can't lose. Nobody can say your gold's worth zero. Never been worth zero. Never has, never will be, because there's always demand for it. All the central banks know it's money, know there's a demand, know it has a value. It's like a Rolex. Why does a Rolex have money? Because people like it. People like gold. It's always been liked. It's always been it's very rare, actually. And I know there's so many tons of it. There's 244,000 tons of gold in the world. And 100 of it is between China and Russia now. Leaves 144. And then with these other countries buying it, it's probably another 60 or 70. So there's probably 60 or 70 out. And the real key is the banks are buying bars. So they buy, I don't know how much a bar, if it's a ton or not. Probably not. But as you saw in Money Heist, all that gold was 90 tons, just 90. So imagine what Russia looks like with 32,000 tons. I mean, Putin's swimming pool's pretty full, but it's really limited. And because every country wants it, puts up high demand. And gold will never be worthless. So you have something that can't be printed and it's never going to be worthless and always have a value. And the governments try to keep it down because they want to keep you interested in this, because in our country, JP Morgan has the printing press. He prints it. So if I could go print $1 million and okay, put it in my pocket, that's what you do. So if you have the monopoly on the printing, you print, you want dollars, you don't want gold. That's why they keep the price down. And then you go, I'd rather be in Amazon and make money in Amazon or Tesla or whatever, and then I don't need to worry about, then I don't need to worry about gold because gold doesn't move. And then they give this bullshit. It doesn't give a dividend. Gold moves pretty fucking quick. In 2008, it was like two or three. Well, 1995, I bought this. It was 250 an ounce. Now it's 2,000. And we know it's not 2,000. It's 20,000. Gold goes up in value, as does silver, far more than it's let on because of the price fixing. Again, I get that from the economics. I get that from the football. So I look at football and I because I'm a critical thinker, so I know this is out. So I got to get rid of this. What do I replace it with? And I did some thinking. Well, I can't buy the yuan. I can't buy the yen. I can't buy the euro. I can't buy the British pound, the Swiss franc, because they're all paper and they're all the same. None of them are backed. So the key is, are they backed by gold? And I immediately knew none of them were. So none of them have a value. This is paper, not worth anything. So if this is all collapsing, what do I do? So I get out of this and I go into gold, which cannot collapse, which is much more valuable than it appears. Stock market's collapsing, mostly because the foreigners will get out of dollars. So people, because the US dollar was the reserve, the people from other countries, the Brits, the Chinese, the Germans, the Swiss, all bought stuff in US dollars, houses, stocks, put money in the bank, but they don't want to hold dollars. Like I don't want to hold dollars. I don't want to hold this because this will go to zero. I don't want to hold this. So they're not stupid either. They see what's happening. They don't want to hold it either. So they sell their houses, sell their stocks, get their money out of the bank, which collapses everything here because it's $36 trillion. So it's kind of like Madoff. And that's really what it is. And that's why your stock market and housing market are crashing or going to crash because if there's all this selling and no buying, it goes down. That's what happened in 1929. People needed money and they sold because everybody in 1929 put money on margin. Then there was the tariff, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, which raised the cost of everything. And so therefore costs went up, sales dropped. Here comes the crash in 1929. Everybody bought on margin. So they all had to sell. That's what happened in 1929 was increase in cost or tariffs. Well, what do you got now? Increase in costs from interest rates. It's inflation. Your money isn't worth anything. They're doing it on purpose because they think they can pay off their debt. If they inflate the money, then they can pay off the debt, but it won't work because the money's worthless. The money becomes worth less and less and less. Therefore, you can't get rid of debt, right? $3 trillion in debt, it doesn't go, oh, you can't just say, oh, it's gone. I saw credit card debt yesterday on something. It was $1 trillion. There's $1 trillion on credit card debt. So I'm waiting for them to say, okay, now you don't owe us anything. So the assets will go to zero also, though. So your house goes down. Your car goes down in value, but then you don't owe a credit card or a mortgage. And that's what will happen. But if you have gold and silver, you're smiling going, hey, wait a minute, all mine's going up. And now the key about gold over Bitcoin and anything else is they're priced in dollars, gold's not. Gold's priced in gold. Bitcoin is not priced in Bitcoin. This is the argument I have with the Bitcoin people. Well, it's going up to 100,000. And what's going to drive it? There's got to be demand to drive it up, and people are leaving the bank, but it's in dollars, so it's going to zero because it's priced in dollars. But gold and silver are not priced in dollars. They are now, but they don't need to be. They'll be priced. Gold will have it be its own currency, like what the Brics are doing. The Brics are sitting there going, "We're going to compete with the dollar, and gold's going to be worth so much," and that's all they're doing. And what would you rather be in, gold or dollars? Gold you can't print, and you don't need. So in other words, it doesn't need to be priced as $2,000 for an ounce of gold. It can be, here's an ounce of gold. It'll buy a house. It'll buy a car. And that's really what you're looking at. But the only assets you can buy are things that are not like the Mantle card or the Picasso will be priced in gold. So an ounce or two of gold will buy you the nice $1 million Mantle card or that Brady $8 million card I showed you. Those you'll buy with gold. They will turn into so much gold will buy the card. But the currency will go to zero because it can't. It's just worthless. But so that's what the Rolex will keep value. But again, now it goes priced in gold. What does Bitcoin do? Does Bitcoin get priced in gold? I don't know how they can do that, but you cannot. So I can have gold to buy things, but I can't buy things in Bitcoin because Bitcoin isn't money, isn't an asset. It's Bitcoin. It's like a stock, right? Where's Microsoft going to go to $5 a share? So, but it can't even be $5 because their whole financial statements go to zero. Their assets go to zero. Their stock goes to zero. Now is Microsoft, who's going to buy what are they going to sell it at? So they'll come out with a new currency to then reestablish what Microsoft will be at. But what do you do with Bitcoin? And you can't use Bitcoin as you can use gold. And everybody teases me, well, I can't buy food with it. And I go, well, you can't buy food with this because this will have no value. I can sell my gold to whatever new currency comes out and then go buy food with that. And it's not going to be a barter system. People keep thinking, oh, I got to buy 90% silver coins to use as barter. No. There's no barter. You sell the coin, there'll be a new. See, people don't understand. When this goes to zero, there'll be a new currency. There'll be another US dollar, probably not backed by gold, so it won't have a value. I mean, I don't think we can buy Brics because we're not in Russia, China, or whatever, but maybe we can. I don't know, but we'll sell the gold for the new currency. So there'll be a new US dollar that we can go to the grocery store with. You must have this. You have to have this. You have to have some form of medium of exchange, some form of dollar. That's what you need. So that's really the point of it. So you're going to have that anyway, and that's where it goes to. So you sell your gold or silver, and you get the new currency, and you go to the grocery store and you buy your food. And you go to the restaurants to eat. You go golfing. So, but you're going to use the gold to get the value. And if you don't have gold, and if you have this won't be worth much. Maybe 100 of these buys you 10 or 20 of the new dollars, right? But then everybody's got to change their price. So what's milk going to cost? And that's really the problem. But gold will keep its value and go up 50-fold. And that's really the key. So, but that's all from economics. And it's the same thing. So that's really how you analyze it, is you realize anything gets overproduced doesn't have a value. Well, you've overproduced the dollar, 10 trillion at least, probably more like 20 trillion was printed. And if 20 trillion is printed and just handed out, that's inflation, which means the value of the dollar drops, like in Germany in 1923, when they printed all these Deutschmarks, and then it eventually went to zero because now you printed another billion Deutschmarks, which made it worth pennies. And that's why they needed a wheelbarrow to carry their money, because it was worthless. And that's what you do. If you overprint your money, it's worthless. That's what Germany taught us. That's what they're doing in Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Greece. I mean, you can see the examples, right? Pakistan, Turkey's inflating. So you can see what's happening, and therefore it's not a pretty sight, but we know what's happening. And you got Biden in there. He's clueless. I don't know if Obama's running it or the Chinese. Whoever's running our country is running it into the ground. They hate the U.S. for some reason. So why do you live here? Why do you want to destroy it? I guess because you're jealous. I don't know. But that's what's happening to our country. So that's why we need to take advantage. Well, we need to take precautions and take advantage of the situation. And the best way to do that is get out of the green and into the gold and silver. So even if it doesn't, and Luke and Bobby, when's it going up? But it doesn't really matter, because you're out of the green. You're out of this worthless toilet paper, which is going to zero. Would you rather hold 100,000 of zero, like Warren Buffett is going to do with $2 billion of nothing, of toilet paper he's going to have? Because it will go to zero, because here's Brics coming out with a gold-backed currency. So what do you want? You want gold or paper? And eventually people will go to the gold-backed currency because it's stable, and then it becomes confident, and our dollar, nobody has faith in it because of the inflation. So they start lying about, oh, inflation's down to 2%, because all the cars that they couldn't sell, they had to lower their price. And they're assuming, oh, prices is inflation. Well, it's not. It's printing the money is the inflation. But nobody will tell you that. For some reason, everybody thinks it's measured in price. It's not. It's how many dollars did you print? And then it becomes really the best way to look at inflation is interest rates. 8% for a car, 9% for a house. Why are they charging that? Because of the inflation. So that's really how you measure it, not in prices. So if there was no inflation, it'd be 2%. But they're worried about getting paid back in inflated dollars, so they got to charge 10% interest. My buddy at Toyota, the sales manager, is saying we can't sell any cars. All the leases or all the payments are like $900 a month to buy a car. Who the fuck's got $900 a month to buy a car? So with that said, you got to be careful about getting your car stolen because people won't be able to afford it. And they need a car. What are they going to do? So be careful with that. Keeping things in your car, you should be okay. I talked to a policeman about it. He says they just try to open the doors. If the door's left open, they're going to say, they see a computer or money, they see $100 bill, they're going to break in. They don't see anything and the door's locked, they walk away because they're not, they don't want to, they're lazy basically. They don't see it. So really, they're probably not going to have a problem with that. Anyway, any other football questions, comments? We got 1:00. We got Notre Dame at 2:30. So let's have a good day in football. Let's win some money. Again, I got 2 plays today. 1 lot going today with next week. So the free picks are the Army and Texas and Utah. I'm just so excited about Utah. I had to make it a free pick. But again, it's first week, so let's get off to a good start. I do have 2 other real strong plays, and I'll probably add more as we go, and we'll go from there. Otherwise, after the pools, like they're closing it Monday, 26th. So on the 28th to the 1st, they're closing the club. I can't swim or hot tub there. But my pool here is open at the apartment, so I will use that. And that's about it. Time for lunch. General Chow for dinner. So I wanted to show you Mark McGuire, as Bobby calls him, for his take on what's going on. And that's what I like him for. I hate when he has guests on because I don't really care about the guy. I've heard all these people on YouTube, and the only ones I trust is Alligator and Egon and Mark McGuire when he's alone. I don't like him when he has a guest because I don't want to hear the guests because unless it's Egon or Alligator, there's no point in it. Anyway, so have a good day. Good luck today on the football. Again, there's 5 games, and then on Thursday and next weekend's the next group. There's no pros until the 7th or the 5th when Kansas City destroys Detroit, and then we'll have that. So we will then go. I'll start having class on Friday to look at Saturday's games. Like yesterday, I saw the line move. I saw, Rising is scheduled to start, so he's going to start, which is what I was looking for. And if all goes well, he's the starter, as far as I know. But you look at the line, so if it goes back to 4.5, we're screwed. If it stays at 7, it goes to 9, and we know he's playing. So that's what we're looking at. And anyway, so the line gives you the information. Usually it's an injury if it goes up or down a lot. Could be weather if the over-under goes from 60 to 50. And it becomes there's a hurricane coming or something. So it gives you the line gives you the information, but we're smarter than that, so we try to bet it earlier. Anyway, I guess that's it. So have a nice day. Good luck today. I will be on tomorrow, same time, about 11:00, 11:30. And I'll see if Alligator or Egon are on talking about Brics. But from what we can see, Brics is coming out with their own currency to compete with the dollar, not really to destroy it, but in the competition, they will destroy it. Because why would you want the U.S. dollar when you can have gold? So only fools would take the dollar. But the U.S. has a good way of not explaining gold, so nobody understands it except for moi here and then you. Gold is the only out, right? So keep that in mind. If you don't understand, ask. www.teaserking.com. Again, you can get my email there and email me questions. Some of my buyers give me football questions. How do I bet this? Or what do you think of that? Which is fine. If you're a customer, you can ask me that. Otherwise, that's it. So www.teaserking.com. Have a good day, everybody. Take care and good luck. All right. Thank you.